Hi, I'm Norman, 2020 Cycling, with another installment of our self-sufficiency series. Today we're going to learn how to change a flat. If you ride enough, you will eventually get a flat. Flats can be a minor inconvenience or they can be a major hassle. I'm going to help you turn them into just a little bump in the road. You're going to fix it, get back on your ride. We got a couple steps. First, we need to get the wheel off the bike. Then we need to get the tire off the wheel. We need to find out what caused the flat so we can get a new tube in without repuncturing. To get the wheel off the bike, we're going to want to shift it into the smallest cog. Makes it a little bit easier for us to get the wheel out. Once the wheel is off and we have a flat, we're going to use our tire lever. Starting opposite the valve, we're going to want to make sure that the bead is off the rim all the way around on both sides. Just kind of squeeze it into the center of the rim. Starting opposite our valve, we're going to bring the tire lever in under the edge of the tire and just rotate around to pull it off the rim. Taking out the tube, we're going to pull the valve out, and then we want to use our pump to put a little bit of air in the tube and try to find the hole in the tube. That's going to tell us a little bit about how we got the flat. 3 ways to get a flat are a puncture from the outside, a puncture from the inside, or a pinch. So once we find that hole, if it's a puncture on the outside, we're going to look inside the tire for any sharp objects like thorns or tacks. If it's a puncture on the inside, then that tells us that the rim strip, which protects the tube from the spoke heads, has been compromised. We need to look at the rim bed and find the part of the tape or rim strip that has maybe moved to the side or it's broken. And then the third is the pinch, and that's going to be characterized by 2 little holes, looks like a snake bite, that is caused by hitting something at speed without enough air in the tire. So once we've removed the cause of the flat, we're going to get our fresh tube out and go ahead and put it back in and get on our ride. When the tube comes out of the box, it's going to be all flat and folded up. It's really hard to work with. So the first thing we want to do is just give it a little bit of shape by putting a little bit of air in it. It's just going to make our job easier when we're trying to tuck it into the tire. So if you have a pump, you can just put that on the valve and put just enough air in the tube to give it some shape. If you have a CO2 inflator, you may not want to use the CO2 to do that. You can just blow into the tube a little bit. Bring the valve stem into the rim and then work to get the tube tucked up inside the tire all the way around. This is where having that little bit of air in the tube gives it some shape, makes it a little bit easier to work with so it's not flopping around. If you have a little bit too much air, you may find that it's kind of hard to get it stuffed in there. Not a big deal, just give it a little tap, let a little bit of air out. So once you've got it in all the way around, let's kind of run our hands around the inside, making sure that the tube is fully tucked inside the tire, so when we begin to put the tire back on, we're not going to catch the tube between the tire and the rim. Starting opposite the valve stem, we're going to work the edge of the tire, the bead, back onto the rim, just using our hands, just kind of working around, keeping an eye out for any tube that may be popping out. We want to make sure that everything is tucked down inside. As we come up to the valve, things will start to get a little bit harder. We're going to want to pull the tire into the channel, and it should just snap right on. So just take a minute to check the tire inside, make sure you don't see any tube all the way around. And then we're going to pump it back up. As you begin to inflate the tire, once it gets to about 20-30 psi, just starts to get a little bit of pressure in it. Take a minute to check where the tire is seated on the rim and make sure that you don't have it popping off or diving under. If you do, you can just kind of push on it, manipulate it to get it to sit properly. Then you bring your tire up to pressure, and you should hear the bead snap onto the rim. And then putting the wheel back on the bike is going to be easy because we know which cog to put the chain on. Spin the derailleur back out of the way and just bring the wheel up into the frame. Give it a spin, make sure that your brake is seated, and then you're good to go. A lot of different bikes, a lot of different wheels, a lot of different variations to this. So if you have questions, if you want to have some practice, feel free to come on by the shop. I'm happy to help.